Hey, welcome back to the Weekly Word. Here we are on the slopes of beautiful Unoy Mountain up on the state line between Tennessee and North Carolina. And I'm with my friend Ken Jones here. You might remember Ken as we did the crosscut saw video several months ago, maybe getting close to a year ago, last summer sometime, I guess. And we're here looking at some very interesting and little known objects that have been placed for, I guess, getting close to a couple hundred years now. They're called the state line stones, and they were put right on the state line. So Ken, we know of what, 4 of these stones now, don't we?
Yeah, 4 of them right along the Benton Mackay Trail.
And this one has a NC 100 on it. So what does that mean?
Well, the survey started in 1821, and it had 3 commissioners from Tennessee and 3 commissioners from North Carolina that were assigned to run the state line on the highest point of the Unoy Mountains. And so we know that these stones were placed, there's mileages on the stones that we know about, and they're measured from a starting point on Cataloochee Turnpike on the northeast end of the Smokies.
So that 100 means that this spot was precisely, according to them, 100 miles from the Cataloochee Turnpike north of the Smokies where the survey began.
That's right.
And what are the other numbers of stones we know? We know 4 right in this area.
The other stones are 92, 95, and 97.
92, 95, 97, and 100. And the stones have some numbers on them, some of them, right? The number of the stone. We couldn't exactly find it on this one. But we've got the idea that there were maybe 11 stones put up.
That's what we're thinking. Some of the other stones clearly have a number on the edge of the stone, and they're like 7, 8, 9.
And it makes sense that the 4 that we know of are right in this area here on each side of Watcheesy, because on our state maps, that's where our state line makes almost a tremendous 90-degree turn, so that would help them to find it. So these commissioners, they came through dragging a chain, and they'd flip the chain ever so often, and when they got, that's how they surveyed the measurements. And the field notes are actually available on the internet, very interesting to read. We know of at least a couple of other these stones that we've read about. One of them I found something about it in a 1914 book by Preston Author about western North Carolina. And he mentioned one of those stones was within 1/2 mile of Absalom Stratton's grave at Stratton Meadows. So Ken and I spent several trips one winter going up and down Johns Knob and up and down the Benton Mackay the other way, trying to run the state line. We never could find that stone. Preston Author unfortunately didn't tell us which side of the grave it was on, but you know, dozers have been run and all kinds of things over the years. It could be on its face. We flipped some over. It could have been taken away 100 years ago to somebody's house. You know how, I guess we've had vandals for many years, but there's at least 4 that was put up sometime not too long after that 1821 survey. I'm not sure what year, but we read about another one, that stone 101. This is 100, so it should only be 1 mile running the top of the ridges that way. We've never found it, we've never really looked for it, but we've brought our GPS today, and we're going to start tracking right here, and we're going to run the top of the ridge line and see if we can go exactly 1 mile out and find where that stone was. If it's not there, at least we should be able to say, well, it was right here, pretty close somewhere, and it may be there. So what do you say, Ken? We're going to bushwhack through the top of these ridges and stay on the state line?
Yeah, we'll give that a try.
And you know, these stones were pretty important. I think we've talked about how in later years, actually, there was a lawsuit between North Carolina and Tennessee to determine exactly where the state line was in some parts. It's supposed to run the high ridge tops, but then it was like which ridge top in some places. But it's really a moot point today because both sides is national forest. You got the Nantahala and the Cherokee, so the states wouldn't really gain anything out of any of it. But it's kind of neat to see these old stones, these old landmarks. So go with us, and we'll catch you back up in a minute. We're going to walk a mile and follow this GPS track line. See you on the other side here. All right, we've followed from the 100 milestone with the GPS reading it for 1 mile, and 1 mile brought us almost into Unoy Gap, and that's some of the literature I had read that was really from less than 100 years ago, that there was the 101 stone at Unoy Gap. We're not actually down at Unoy Gap, right down there where the cars park and where everybody thinks it is today. Why are we standing up here on this part, Ken?
Well, we're standing on the old Unoy Turnpike that was, construction was started in 1814, I believe, if I have the date right. So in 1821, the state line survey crew would have come in and hit Unoy Turnpike, and that's the point where they would have turned the state line south instead of following the ridge line.
And it's hard to see right now. The TVA's recently cleared out the power line that goes through the gap here, but if it hadn't thrown all the brush over it, you could see it better. You can actually see the old sunken roadbed from the original Unoy Turnpike, and it goes on and becomes a trail on out that way. That was literally the Trail of Tears, where they brought the Cherokee through here. Where the road runs today is not exactly the Unoy Turnpike of that day, because they cut 10 or 12 feet down between the banks to get through the gap here and made a parking area and all. But when we look at our GPS map, this right in this spot right here is about where it shows the state line. Stop following the ridge line, and then it shoots a straight line down to Georgia. You can look at your map and see that. And it's kind of funny, in the field notes, they said the commission was for the group of commissioners from North Carolina and the group of commissioners from Tennessee. They had the orders to follow the high tops of the ridge line all the way to Georgia. But somewhere on Unoy Mountain, according to the field notes, they ran into a rattle bug. I'm assuming that's a rattlesnake. And by the time they got to Unoy Gap here, which would have been like a main highway for them back at 200 years ago, close to it, it says in the field notes, the men developed a powerful thirst. And they knocked off there, and they just took the survey and drew a straight line to the post down in Georgia. And that's why when you look at the map of Tennessee, it follows the squiggly mountaintops till you get to Unoy Gap, and then it shoots a straight line to Georgia. Now, the interesting thing about that decision is if they had followed their orders and stayed on the top of the high ridge lines, eventually all this wealth was found at Copper Hill, Tennessee. But if they'd followed the original orders, Copper Hill would have been in North Carolina. And so Tennessee came out good on that one. But decisions have consequences is the point of the story here that I'm telling today. And every decision you make in life has consequences, for good or for bad, and it affects other people. But the most important decision that you would ever make is when you make a decision to be a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, because that one has eternal consequences. If you haven't decided for Jesus yet, let me invite you to do so today. And we're going to get out of here and find some more weekly word adventures for you. See you next time.